Welcome back, everybody, to the Malaza knitting class, or at least at this point, the me pretending that I have knitted all the stuff that I hold up class, because, yeah, you actually haven't seen me do it on screen, have you? But I'll maybe try actually knitting on screen at some point. I'm just scared I might lose my thread with the rambling and make it even less coherent than before. We'll see. Maybe I'll do that at a point. Anyway, the short update on the state of the scarf. It is getting longer and longer. Not sure at this point. I guess it's very difficult to actually see the progress when I put it around my neck. I can definitely have it hang down so far now. We'll see how things will progress. But yeah, it won't be finished at the end of Gardens of the Moon. I can tell you that. It's just too long for that. Anyway, so speaking of that, now we will talk of Book 6 of Gardens of the Moon. We will return to the City of Blue Fire. And for that, we'll definitely have another beer. It's still Jever because, yeah, the situation with my local shop up here is very terrible when it comes to beers. We'll see what I can provide for future episodes. Until then, you'll have to deal with that. So, cheers. All right. Book 6, The City of Blue Fire. Well, as the name already implies, we are heading back into Daruzistan for the big finale, which will be in Book 7. And obviously, this happens in piecemeal fashion. Our different groups need to get back there. We have everyone at this point sort of on their way. We have Captain Paran, who has just met with Cole. We have the adjunct who needs to get back there. We have Krappa and Murillo who are on their way. We have Crocus who has already gotten there or is on its way together with Absola slash Sori. And yeah, things will happen. It's the shortest of the books of Gardens of the Moon. It's once again 3 chapters, but it's very short chapters, and there's not that much, I guess, that is new that we can talk about in this one here. Um, but I had a few things, so I'll probably talk a bit about that. So, one more thing, I guess one thing that I find interesting is how Gano's Paran changes when he meets Cole. He overcomes his like grief slash anger, more like the anger part. I mean, yes, he has found out about Tattersail being reborn, but he still needs to deal with his anger at being pushed by a god, being used by a god. He still has to deal with all of that, but the meeting with Cole brings about those like very human moments, and he seems to have at least found more parts of his personality to share or put out there. He's once again willing to actually extend friendship and accept friendship after his terrible experiences with Tetrasail and Talk being, well, yeah, I mean, they die. Or at least, yeah. Certainly they are taken from him, is, I guess, how I should pronounce that. Then, yes. So that Paran is actually willing to open up in that way and give, yeah, yeah, open up is what I'm trying to say here. Is something that I find interesting and very telling about his character, probably also for the future. When you look at how he has changed from a angry young nobleman who is trying to prove himself in the world, he has aged a lot in the last like 15 chapters, not even 15 chapters. He's not in all of those, so he has aged a lot in that regard and matured in a way. He still has his revenge plan with the adjunct, but we'll see how that works. Now we get some action scenes, obviously, not real action, but a lot of like talking, people getting together. We learn that Crocus is has been accused of killing the that guardsman that, when he tried to talk to Chalice Dahl again, and he's now hiding together with Apsala. We see how their relation is now sort of developing. Um, Now, there have been people who say that the way Erickson handles those kinds of relationships that turn in the slightly more romantic, maybe, is not up to the standard of some of his other relationship developments. Now, I'm not an expert on that, so I won't comment on it here. I just believe that, well, Crocus and Apsalar are behaving like teenagers. So teenagers are weird creatures, and as I said before, that's something that already shows up when Crocus is so super annoying in earlier chapters and does stupid things. But yeah, teenagers do stupid things, right? At least I did when I was a teenager. Well, I still do, but some people never learn. Anyway, that's one thing that came to my mind while reading part six. Another one is we get some more world building. We hear more about Ototaro. We learn when Ralik. We learn a bit more about Ralik. It's probably the part of the book that shows most of Ralik as a character so far. We learn about his more that he has had more dealings with the assassins, not with the Assassin's Guild. He has had more dealings with Baruch the Alchemist. We learn that he is actually willing to go against guild rules in a way, on his way to fulfilling that quest that he has set for himself, on that way to salvation in a way, or at least what we spoke about before, the his trial to his trial his him trying to keep part of his humanity, or at least spending his last chances at being human and not giving up all of his ideals, yeah, for his career in the Assassin's Guild. I figure that, yes, I ramble even more when I knit while I ramble, so I'll probably stop that. Anyway, let's go back. So we see that he's even willing to defy the guild rules in this and put his ideals, his personal honor and integrity above that when he goes against his own clan master in the guild to possibly save Cull. That's an interesting thing. We then see how much Perrin has become a. I don't want to call him a moral absolutist. He's not, but he's definitely at this point very much putting his personal ideals, his personal integrity, and personal moral thoughts above everything else when we come to the point where he's basically risking everything in order to get Cole saved. So that's once again one of those moments where we see how where we see another possible way to deal with that whole outside forces versus inside forces thing that I spoke about before. Yes, and what else do we see in that chapter, in that book about that? Not that much more, because as I said, there's a lot of running and we're heading closer to the entire, to the great finale. One thing that stuck out that I found very interesting is a scene rather at the beginning of book 6 with Anamanda Rake. I'm still looking at how Rake as a character is portrayed and so forth. And that is when he's talking with Baruch, and is trying to explain what he is doing, why he's doing what he's doing, and is talking about his role as the leader of the Tist and the way he describes it, he uses actually the fact that like his people have become hollow, and that nicely echoes the beginning of the entire book when you have the Empire feeling hollow. When you also have the that image when Tattersail is standing on the mountain, and you have those empty armors, and everything has been taken out of that. I just found that like a nice recall to that, and showing that the conflict that Rake somehow is having with the Empress, the conflict that they are having is actually of two people that preside over in a way, hollowed out empires or hollowed out groups in a way. So that's an interesting thought to have there, I feel. And yeah, I just found that very interesting when I came across that. Another thing, just a small one that I need to put in here, is when you watched when you watched like Niflrock's first video where he goes over like the reader tag thing, he claims that there is very little good descriptions of food, and all that gets eaten in the Malazan Book of the Fallen is soup and bread and cheese. And I just reference you obviously to a book to chapter 19 where Krappa is, of course it's Krappa, and he's talking to Baruch, and he describes like in one sentence, it's a convoluted Krappa sentence obviously, he describes so many foodstuffs that it's basically enough for at least this book, I'd say. And yeah, so Steven Erikson knows more than one type of food. He has heard about oysters. He has heard about vegetables. He even has heard about, well, not only pastries, but more like that stuff. So yeah, go figure. It's in there. So yes, what I was trying to say is that it's a rather short chapter. We have some more of those elements of people showing compassion, of being human, showing their humanity. We have this nice parallelism between, like this recalling to the idea of a hollow empire or a hollow nation. This when we have that when we have Rake talking to Baruch about how he feels, this parallelity between the Malazan Empire and the Empress Lasine on the one hand, and Amanda Rake and his people on the other hand. We have that. We definitely get, yeah, right. We even if we hadn't figured it out before, we finally kind of get the confirmation that Krappa is the eel and is much more than just a walking, talking pastry demolition machine. And we basically see that all threads will combine within that fate at Lady Simtal's place, and that is going to be the last book. Oh, something else that's also interesting and nice is that we already get foreshadowed. I just found that nice as a setup. So when Raleigh comes back and his wound is already healed, he still has lost a lot of blood, but his wound is already healed. We already know that it's because of the Ototaro, because earlier in the conversation, Lon tells Tool that it has that property for her. So it doesn't feel like a sudden, oh, we need magic to heal him kind of thing. So it just got set up nicely, and it's good to see someone knowing his craft as a writer and making sure that those kind of loose ends, not loose ends, but that plot developments are set up in a proper way, which obviously is something that the Malazan Book of the Fallen does extremely well. And I don't really need to tell you that at this point. Like basically everything that happens in this book that doesn't get resolved most of it will get resolved later on. So if you find something weird, just make a note of it and wait for further books to come, is my advice. Yes, this was a rather short ramble, I feel, and I'll leave you with this. And tomorrow we're gonna get into the end of the whole affair. And until then, cheers.